We've all recently fallen in love with Dogman, thanks to the wonderful DreamWorks movie that's taking the world by storm. But did you know there's a lot to uncover about the main villain of the 13 Dogman books? In one of the latest Dogman books, called Mothering Heights, we see the renowned journalist Sarah Haytoff heading to the home of a famous person in the city of OK for an exclusive interview. The person she's about to interview is none other than Petey, the infamous cat villain. A completely unscrupulous guy, a scheming scoundrel who's good for nothing. Her words, not mine, don't sue me. However, something happened in his life that made him change, and this pivotal event in his journey shows how the choices we make are more important than the traumas we go through in life. During the interview, Petey demonstrates that we have the strength to not let our past define us if we have the determination to make the hard choices. And so, Petey tells the story of how he went from being a short-tempered bad guy who yells at everyone to a short-tempered good guy who yells at everyone. And it all started when he and his mother were abandoned by his father, Crud. Even though it was just the two of them, he knew his mother did everything she could to take care of him, and he knew he didn't make it easy for her. He was a troublemaking little kitten, always curious about life and everything around him. But even so, he could feel her love inside him, and he truly believed he didn't need his father because he had his mother until she passed away and left him all alone. Yet, despite everything, he remained a kind-hearted cat because he could still feel his mother's love even after she was gone. This emotional story still has many pages left to turn. So grab your popcorn and your tissues, because today we're diving into the untold story of Petey the cat right here on Zigzag. After Petey lost his mother, he still had hopes of becoming someone in life because he was part of a renowned scout group and he was the best of them all. In fact, he was known as the best scout in the group and was awarded for all his good deeds. He had trophies, medals, and all kinds of prizes you could imagine. And he was the leader of the scouts, which included Piggy, Crunky, and Bub. However, as soon as they were left alone without the instructor, Petey was attacked by the trio out of pure envy of his achievements. They couldn't accept that he was the best scout. And when the instructor arrived to break up the fight, the three of them turned against Petey, who lost all his awards, and with them, his purpose in life. But Petey got his first taste of villainy when he took revenge on them by accusing the scouts of being violent toward cats, bringing feline rights activists down on them, and shutting down the entire scout group once and for all. Did Petey go too far with his revenge? Or would you have done the same? Tell us in the comments using the hashtag #revenge so we can find out. After that, back in the interview with Sarah Haytoff, Petey tells us that he made a series of terrible choices and ended up being imprisoned in the cat jail for the first time. And he says this happened before Dogman, so the canine cop wasn't the first to arrest the villainous cat. However, with a broken heart, Petey reveals that, at that time, he was still trying to be that altruistic and kind little cat who applied scout values to his life and held on to his mother's love to keep going. But because of the bad choices he had made in the past, no one was willing to give him a chance to start over after he got out of cat jail and served his sentence. No one treated him well. No one gave him an opportunity for honest work. Then the journalist asks if that was when he turned to a life of crime. And Petey responds, "Well, what choice did I have? Man, this story breaks my heart. Dave Pilkey writes so well, even though it's a comic that isn't aimed at adults." And now, we reach the point in the timeline where our story begins, when Dogman appears. Before Dogman became the hero we know and love, he was actually two separate beings, or rather, a human and a dog. This unlikely duo was made up of Officer Knight, an extremely naive and not so bright policeman whom no one took seriously. But interestingly, this lack of intelligence was also his greatest advantage, since he simply didn't understand the criticism he received. And because of that, he never let it get to him. By his side was Greg, a dog who, ironically, was the brains of the duo. Together, Knight and Greg spent more time sleeping on the job or getting into unnecessary dangers than actually capturing villains. Their main target was the cunning cat Petey, but their attempts always ended in failure. A clear example of this appears right at the beginning of the comics, and also in the movie, when the two take on the mission of deactivating a bomb on top of a warehouse. The detail, the place was completely empty. In other words, there was no one there to get hurt except for them. As expected, the bomb explodes, and the incident is covered by journalist Sarah Haytoff, who reports to the public about the tragic accident. Officer Knight suffers a fatal head injury, while Greg loses his body. And it is from this tragedy that Dogman is born, when doctors decide to attach the dog's head to the policeman's body. And so, the great irony of the comics emerges, where the villain creates the hero, whereas we usually see the opposite happening, like Batman creating the Joker and that sort of thing. Want to know more about Dogman? We've prepared a video about him in the card that just popped up. And now, everything was in place. Petey was established as the villain. Dogman had secured his place as the hero, and the OK City witnessed, day after day, the evil cat's plans to take down the city's most beloved cop, always getting arrested and escaping from prison shortly afterward. In Petey's mind, this was turning into a complete joke because there was nothing he could do that would even scratch Dogman. And with a useless sidekick who literally didn't help at all, he finally reached his limit and had an epiphany. If you want something done right, do it yourself. And so, he made the sensible decision that any of you watching this video would surely think of. He went on Amazon and bought a cloning machine so he could have another him thinking alongside him to create the best evil plan possible. But things never go the way we want, do they? And Petey should have known that because the machine created his clone at the youngest possible age, making it his responsibility to raise the clone until he turned 18. Things couldn't get any worse. Thanks to the existence of his clone, the worst thing of all happens. The little kitten starts calling him Papa because he thinks Petey is his father. Petey didn't have time to deal with that. A kid would only be a nuisance and wouldn't solve the problem called Dogman. And with that, Petey unknowingly embarks on his redemption journey. He tries to abandon the kitten, only to feel extremely guilty and rescue him from Dogman's house shortly after. And when a truly evil villain emerges in the robotic form of Flippy, the telepathic fish, Petey does something he never imagined. He sacrifices himself to protect the kitten, and even trusts Dogman to take care of the clone. This was the turning point that set Petey on the long road to redemption. And the turning point for us would be if you subscribed to the channel. So do it right now. After little Petey defeated Flippy, with sheer cuteness, Petey himself started having all his broken pieces put back together, thanks to the little kitten he had now adopted as his son. He faces the cause of his downfall in the past, Piggy and his cronies who have returned to take revenge for what he did to the kitten activists back then. A whirlwind of emotions comes to the surface when his father, Crud, returns to his life after cruelly abandoning him as a child, leaving both him and his mother to their fate. However, in a not-so-distant future, after trusting and allying with Dogman so many times, and with Dogman being a reliable friend capable of taking care of his son, now, in his exclusive interview with Sarah Haytoff, Petey acknowledges that the biggest turning point in his life wasn't even the abandonment and passing of his mother, it was the birth of little Petey. Because it was at that moment that he truly felt, for the first time, the love of his mother again, even though he didn't want to admit it at the time. And it was precisely that which brought him back to the good side in the form of his son. Want to know more about this father and son relationship? Just click in the video on your screen right now. See you there.